a prominent opposition figure in a showdown over constitutional rights. He cannot just come into Edo without informing me. His security will not be guaranteed. If anything happens to him here, he will have himself to blame. I'm not joking. Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo warned at a recent rally, effectively telling 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi to stay out without the governor's personal clearance. This controversial ultimatum, delivered with a claim that Obi's last visit triggered violence, has sparked outrage and charges of intimidation. Within hours, Kenneth Okonkwo, a lawyer and spokesperson for Obi's Labour Party, blasted Okpebholo's remarks as unconstitutional, illegal, irresponsible, and largely illiterate on national television. What began as a local power play has exploded into a national debate on lawful authority, political tolerance, and the rights of citizens under Nigeria's constitution. In this in-depth summary, we break down the dramatic exchange between Governor Okpebholo and Kenneth Okonkwo over Obi's visit, highlighting the political tension, power dynamics, leadership style, and public impact at play. Viewers will hear the key statements verbatim with timestamps from the original broadcast and gain historical context behind the confrontation. We'll explore how Okpebholo's attempt to assert control set the stage for a constitutional showdown, how Okonkwo's fiery rebuttal invoked the rule of law and ethnic unity, and what this clash reveals about Nigeria's democratic landscape. This commentaristal analysis brings you a blow-by-blow account of how a governor's warning to a rival ignited accusations of tribalism, threats to opposition, and concerns for Nigeria's fragile political civility. The governor's controversial warning, this saga, began at a political rally in Uromi, Edo State, when newly sworn-in Governor Monday Okpebholo delivered a startling public warning aimed directly at Peter Obi, referring to Obi, a former Anambra State governor and the Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate. Okpebholo asserted that there's a new sheriff in town, making it clear he is now in charge in Edo. In an unusually confrontational tone for a governor, he declared that Obi cannot just come into Edo without informing me, insinuating that any visit by the opposition figure required his personal approval. To drive the point home, Okpebholo cautioned that Obi's security could not be guaranteed without this clearance. If anything happens to him here, he will have himself to blame. I'm not joking, the governor warned chillingly. These words, delivered in front of supporters, landed like a thunderclap in Nigeria's political arena, a sitting governor explicitly barring a national figure from entering a state unless protocols are met. Okpebholo attempted to justify his stance by linking Obi's previous visit to unrest. He alleged that when Obi came to Edo on June 7th for a charitable event at a local hospital, violence spiked. That man who says he has no shishi came and dropped 15 million. Where did he get it from? After he left, 3 people were killed, Okpebholo claimed, questioning the source of Obi's donation and implying it had somehow sparked bloodshed. In the governor's narrative, Obi's high-profile presence and philanthropy coincided with a resurgence of violence in the state. For this reason, Okpebholo insisted Obi must not come to Edo without security clearance. By casting the issue as one of safety and protocol, the governor framed his warning as a protective measure, portraying himself as the new sheriff, safeguarding Edo from turmoil allegedly following Obi's visits. However, the tone and wording of Okpebholo's remarks unmistakably sounded like a threat to many, telling an opposition leader his security will not be guaranteed and he will have himself to blame for any harm. Is extraordinary language in Nigerian politics, where rivals often spar but rarely issue personal warnings of violence. The context made it even more explosive. Peter Obi commands a massive following and is seen by supporters as a symbol of reform and ethnic diversity. He is Igbo, one of Nigeria's major ethnic groups, while Governor Okpebholo is from Edo's dominant ethnic group. Thus, Okpebholo's stay out edict carried undertones of both political and ethnic exclusion, raising the stakes beyond a mere protocol dispute. Critics immediately latched onto the new sheriff in town bravado as an overreach of power, as if Edo were the governor's personal fiefdom and opposition figures needed his leave to visit. The stage was set for a fierce pushback, and it came swiftly on national television. Constitutional rights and immediate outrage. Within days of Okpebholo's rally, Kenneth Okonkwo took to the airwaves to condemn the governor's comments in no uncertain terms. Okonkwo, a veteran Nollywood actor turned politician and a spokesperson For Peter Obi's campaign appeared on Arise News brandishing the Nigerian constitution like a shield. He was visibly outraged as he dissected Okpebholo's statement, calling it a direct affront to Nigeria's fundamental rights. Quoting Section 41 of the 1999 Constitution word for word, Okonkwo reminded viewers that every citizen of Nigeria shall be entitled to move freely throughout Nigeria and to reside in any part thereof. With measured emphasis, he added that no citizen of Nigeria shall be expelled from any state or denied entry into any state, underlining that freedom of movement is not just a principle, but a constitutional guarantee. By invoking this supreme law on live TV, Okonkwo aimed to demolish the premise of Okpebholo's warning. No governor, no matter how powerful, has the authority to unilaterally forbid a Nigerian from visiting any part of their own country. After laying out the law, Okonkwo's critique became even more blunt. He summarized Governor Okpebholo's stance as fundamentally illegitimate, declaring, what the governor said is unconstitutional, it is illegal, it is irresponsible, and it's largely illiterate. This biting assessment, delivered in a calm but firm tone, immediately grabbed headlines. By calling the governor's actions unconstitutional and illegal, Okonkwo underscored that Okpebholo was defying the very oath of office he took to uphold the law. Labeling the remarks irresponsible hinted at the recklessness of a leader stoking political tension, and perhaps most provocatively, largely illiterate suggested that the governor either did not understand the law or chose to ignore it, a scathing rebuke of Okpebholo's leadership acumen and grasp of governance. Such strong language is rarely heard on morning television. It signaled how egregious Okonkwo found the governor's behavior. The urgency and outrage in Okonkwo's voice matched the gravity of the issue. A state governor appearing to nullify a constitutional right, if left unchallenged, could set a dangerous precedent for authoritarianism in a democracy. Okonkwo didn't stop at generalities. He directly addressed the situation in Edo, citing the very scenario Okpebholo described. He explained that even if Obi's visit drew crowds or coincided with unrest, that cannot justify banning him. If you put it into context with Edo State, it simply means no citizen of Nigeria can be denied entry into Edo State or expelled therefrom, he noted, translating the constitutional principle into the case at hand. To Okonkwo, Okpebholo's warning was not only a personal affront to Peter Obi, but an illegal attack on the constitutional rights of Nigerian citizens as a whole. The immediate impact of Okonkwo's rebuttal was to frame the debate as far larger than one visit. It was about whether any Nigerian politician can undermine fundamental freedoms under the guise of state protocol. His on-air comments tapped into widespread public sentiment. Many Nigerians, cutting across party lines, voiced alarm that an elected official would assert such sweeping powers. Okonkwo effectively channeled this outrage, making it clear that Okpebholo's stance would not go unchallenged either legally or in the court of public opinion. Heated exchange, accusations, and ethnic tensions as the Arise News interview progressed. Okonkwo's analysis turned from legalities to the deeper motives and implications behind Okpebholo's words. He outright accused the governor of politically motivated intimidation, arguing that this wasn't about security protocol at all but about squelching opposition voices. This is a direct attack, a threat, an intimidation of an opposition leader, Okonkwo said pointedly. In other words, the Labour Party stalwart interpreted Okpebholo's message as clear political bullying using the powers of state office to scare of a rival. By barring Peter Obi, Okpebholo was effectively sending a message to all opposition figures that they are unwelcome or unsafe in Edo unless they play by the governor's rules. Such a move, Okonkwo implied, undermines democratic competition and harkens back to an era of strongman politics where might makes right. It showcases the power dynamics at play. A newly installed Governor Okpebholo took office in late 2024, flexing his muscles to assert dominance, and a prominent opposition voice, Okonkwo speaking for Obi, daring to call him out on it in public. This clash thus became symbolic of a larger struggle in Nigeria's young democracy between incumbent power and dissenting voices. The confrontation soon took on an ethnic dimension as well, given Nigeria's sensitive inter-ethnic relations. Peter Obi is ethnically Igbo, and Edo State is in Nigeria's south-south region with a different ethnic makeup. Okonkwo seized on rhetoric he found troubling in Okpebholo's approach, suggesting it betrayed tribal biases. Visibly angered, he warned that Okpebholo's remarks amounted to a direct threat to IGBO people. It's a direct threat and an exhibition of being an IGBO hater, and that should stop. This stark statement peeled back another layer. Beyond politics, Okonkwo heard in Okpebholo's tone the echo of ethnic hostility, as if the governor's issue was not just with Obi as an opponent, but with Obi as an IGBO man drawing support in Edo. By calling out IGBO hater, Okonkwo appealed to national unity and cautioned against fanning ethnic bigotry. His words carry weight in a country where ethnic tensions have fueled conflict in the past, and where leaders are expected to be governors of all, not just their own group. The public impact of this charge was significant. Many Nigerians took to social media echoing Okonkwo's sentiment, decrying any hint of tribalism in leadership. Okonkwo's stance suggested that if a high-profile IGBO figure like Obia can be rhetorically barred from one state, it sends a chilling message to IGBOs and other groups about their place in the federation, a message that must be firmly rejected. For the sake of national cohesion, the war of words also became personal. Okonkwo did not mince words about Governor Okpebholo himself, using remarkably colorful and cutting language. He described the Edo governor as underproduced, figure-challenged, pancomic, petite, and largely illiterate, reiterating that last insult for effect. This barrage of adjectives, unusual in political discourse, underscored how strongly Okonkwo felt that Okpebholo had overstepped and belittled himself in the process. Words like pancomic, a rare term implying narrow-mindedness or parochialism, and petite, small or petty, were meant to cast the governor as a small-minded local emperor, out of depth on the national stage. By calling him underproduced and largely illiterate, Okonkwo questioned Okpebholo's education and competence, implying he lacked the sophistication expected of someone in high office. This exchange illustrated how toxic the confrontation had become. Far from a polite disagreement, it had devolved into trading bobs about intelligence and character. Such harsh rhetoric from Okonkwo, a usually articulate and composed figure, highlighted the depth of frustration among Obi's camp. It also put Okpebholo on the defensive, as these comments were splashed across headlines and social media, pressuring the governor to explain or retract his stance to avoid being seen as ignorant of the law or driven by ethnic prejudice. Power dynamics and political implications. At the heart of this clash are power dynamics between state authority and opposition influence. Governor Okpebholo's insistence on being notified and clearing Obi's visits can be seen as an attempt to assert his supremacy over the political space in Edo State. Coming into office in late 2024, Okpebholo of the All Progressives Congress, ABC, likely faces the task of consolidating power and fending off challenges in a state where Peter Obi's Labour Party made significant inroads during the 2023 elections. By positioning himself as the new sheriff, Okpebholo was sending a message that he's in charge and that even nationally renowned figures must defer to his authority on his turf. However, this approach runs up against the structure of Nigeria's federal democracy. While governors are powerful within their states, they are constrained by the national constitution and democratic norms. Okonkwo's fierce response highlighted that tension. The implication of Okpebholo's initial warning is that a governor can play gatekeeper, but Okonkwo reminded everyone that Nigeria is not a collection of personal fiefdoms. It's one nation where citizens can travel and engage freely. The public spectacle of a state governor seemingly trying to veto an opposition leader's movement has raised concerns that other politicians might try similar tactics if unchecked, which could severely undermine national unity and the opposition's ability to campaign or mobilize nationwide. Politically, Okpebholo's gambit also suggests an undercurrent of anxiety among ruling party figures about Peter Obi's continued popularity. Obi, who won Edo State's vote in the 2023 presidential election, commands a devoted following. By starkly warning Obi-Af, Okpebholo may have inadvertently acknowledged the threat Obi's influence poses in Edo. Kenneth Okonkwo seized on this, arguing that such hostility shows the ruling party feels threatened by Obi's presence. What it shows is that they believe they can assault and insult Peter Obi and get away with it, Okonkwo observed, urging that Obi should respond forcefully. He even advised Obi, if anybody gives you one, give the person 10, meaning that the opposition should answer every intimidation tenfold, a provocative call for a robust pushback. This commentary reveals the high stakes of Nigeria's power tussles. Opposition leaders like Obi are expected to fight for their space, while new power brokers like Okpebholo test the waters of how far they can go to sideline rivals. The exchange thus serves as a barometer for Nigeria's political climate post-2023 elections. Will the space for opposition shrink under pressure from incumbents, or will constitutional norms and public resistance keep authoritarian instincts in check? It's also telling that Okpebholo quickly tried to walk back or reframe his remarks after the backlash. The Edo State government, sensing the uproar, released a clarification insisting the governor's words were not a threat, but merely a call for protocol and security coordination. As the chief security officer of the state, Okpebholo argued he has a duty to ensure high-profile visits don't jeopardize safety, especially given recent incidents of violence and church attacks in Edo. The governor's team even invoked moral responsibility and scripture, saying public donations like OBIs should be discreet to avoid attracting criminal elements. This carefully crafted explanation highlights the balancing act for leaders. Okpebholo had to assert authority to his base, but when confronted with constitutional backlash, he appealed to governance duty and security concerns. Okonkwo flatly rejected this defense, viewing it as a face-saving spin in the face of public outrage. Nonetheless, the very need for a clarification shows the power of public and media scrutiny. It also suggests that Okpebholo recognized he might have overreached, a sign that in Nigeria's evolving democracy, even powerful governors can be pulled back into line when they cross certain boundaries. This incident will likely serve as a precedent. Future leaders might think twice before issuing such edicts, knowing it can backfire both legally and politically. Public impact and reaction to Okpebholo-Okonkwo exchange has reverberated far beyond Edo State, sparking reactions across Nigeria's political spectrum and civil society. Public opinion has largely sided with the constitutional argument, with many Nigerians expressing alarm that an elected official would hint at barring a fellow citizen from any state. Rights groups and activists were quick to condemn Okpebholo's initial remarks. A prominent civil rights organization even demanded that Governor Okpebholo must issue a public apology to Mr. Peter Obi and his supporters and withdraw his unconstitutional and inflammatory statement, emphasizing that such rhetoric has no place in a democracy. On social media, hashtags related to the incident trended, with citizens debating the limits of gubernatorial power and the importance of safeguarding free movement and political dissent. Many saw the issue as transcending party lines. An attempt to silence one candidate today could be used against another tomorrow. This broader public impact underscored Okonkwo's point that fundamental rights should not be subject to the whims of any governor, no matter the party or region. Political leaders and commentators also weighed in. Even some members of Okpebholo's APC privately expressed discomfort, according to reports, fearing the incident made the party appear intolerant. Opposition parties capitalized on the moment. The African Democratic Congress ADC, for instance, blasted the governor's warning as disgraceful and undemocratic, urging respect for OBI's rights. Within the Labour Party, Okonkwo's fiery defense of OBI reinforced his standing as a loyal ally. OBI himself reaffirmed his trust in Okonkwo despite occasional internal party debates. Meanwhile, Governor Okpebholo's allies tried to shift the narrative by pointing to an anecdote. They noted that Obi, as an Anambra State governor years ago, once had a political opponent, Nasir El-Rufai, briefly detained during a visit, implying that Obi himself set a precedent. But this comparison did little to sway public opinion, as critics argued two wrongs don't make a right. If anything, it fueled calls for consistent respect of democratic norms, regardless of past grudges. The leadership implications of this saga are significant. Governor Okpebholo's leadership style has come under scrutiny. Observers wonder if this aggressive posture will define his tenure, or if he will adopt a more inclusive approach moving forward. His ability to work across political divides in Edo might be tested. Will opposition figures feel safe to engage in the state after this? Kenneth Okonkwo's very public broadside also serves as a caution to leaders everywhere that actions deemed arrogant or unconstitutional will be swiftly called out and ridiculed. Okonkwo, for his part, emerged from this episode as a vocal champion of constitutionalism and inter-ethnic respect, bolstering his profile as more than just a party spokesman but a defender of democratic values. In the court of public opinion, the exchange solidified the idea that Nigerians expect their leaders to uphold the rule of law and not govern by threats. The ultimate public impact might be a positive one, By shining a spotlight on this incident, it reinforces that Nigeria's democracy has watchdogs, be it the press, opposition figures, or ordinary citizens ready to challenge any overreach of power. A turning point for democratic discourse. What began as a parochial spat in Edo State has evolved into a national conversation about democracy, accountability, and unity. The heated exchange between Governor Monday Okpebholo and Kenneth Okonkwo serves as a microcosm of Nigeria's ongoing journey in refining its political culture. On one hand, it exposed the temptation among some power holders to assert personal authority above the constitution, underlining the need for constant vigilance. On the other hand, the prompt and forceful rebuttal grounded in law and delivered in the public square showcased the resilience of Nigeria's democratic norms. The fact that a governor's statement could be so openly challenged and debated by millions, with constitutional chapters read on live TV and a chorus of public dissent, is a healthy sign that Nigeria's experiment in democracy is alive and assertive. Moving forward, this episode could mark a turning point. It has put all politicians on notice that Nigerians will not take kindly to any perceived assault on their rights or any hints of tribal chauvinism. The power dynamics in Edo and beyond may shift as leaders calibrate their rhetoric, knowing that accountability is swift in the digital age, where video clips of quotes like "I'm not joking" or "largely illiterate" can go viral instantly. For the people of Edo State, many will be watching how Governor Okpebholo handles dissent and opposition visits in the future, whether he fosters a climate of inclusion or erects barriers. For Peter Obi and the opposition, the challenge and opportunity lie in responding to such intimidation not with fear, but with renewed commitment to the law and engagement with the public, as Okonkwo urged on Ed. In the end, the Okpebholo-Okonkwo confrontation underscores a fundamental truth. No single leader's ego or insecurity can be allowed to trump the constitution that binds the nation together. The public outcry and the constitutional clash we've witnessed reaffirm that Nigerians see themselves first and foremost as citizens of one country, free to move and participate anywhere, not confined by the edicts of any one man. It's a powerful reminder that in Nigeria's evolving democracy, the ultimate new sheriff in town is the rule of law, and it's a sheriff that both governors and citizens must answer to.